Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a wonderful Wednesday so far. Today we're going to be diving into Cardano, and this is going to be a bit of a different video than what we usually do. Typically, we'll cover everything going on within the Cardano ecosystem and, of course, Cardano generally. But in this video, I really want to focus specifically on stablecoins. Of course, to start things off, we will be looking at the charts and the overall markets very quickly. But we're really going to be diving into stablecoins and what stablecoins mean for Cardano and its ecosystem. And I think the result of the implementation of stablecoins is going to be very good for ADA and the tokens built on top of it, the ecosystem that we're now starting to watch blossom. We are going to get into it, why that is. I'm going to be showing you why I actually think the price of Cardano is probably going to act very positively with the introduction of stablecoins. And I'll do a kind of illustration to show you how it all works. And remember, stablecoins are only really one component of this flourishing ecosystem that we're seeing develop before our eyes. So let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into the video. Let's start by looking at the overall markets. They're taking a bit of a break. You've got Solana that's doing quite well today, and I think Avalanche is another one. There's quite a few out there. Not Avalanche, sorry, Aave. There's quite a few out there that are actually doing quite well today. Very typical. You know, some coins perform at different times than others, but one thing that all your altcoins really do is follow the general direction of Bitcoin. And that brings us on to what's happening, or what we're going to talk about next, which is, of course, Bitcoin. You guys know what we're looking for within Bitcoin. We've had this bullish cross on your MACD, and we've actually highlighted every time you've had it prior with these green vertical lines. And it's very common after making it that you get a period of kind of consolidation, if you will, where you kind of don't really do much and you go sideways. Potentially a similar thing setting up today. Technically, things look good for Bitcoin. You guys know that the words that I'm describing my feelings towards markets at the moment are cautiously optimistic. And I'm not cautious about crypto or anything involved in the crypto ecosystem, more external geopolitical events and so on, you know, macroeconomics and everything going on that front. As we have seen, they've played more of a role within our markets. You know, we've moved away from a very 4-year cycle driven market to now being tethered to the kind of macro financial landscape of things. So for ADA, we're also watching this bullish cross, and ultimately I'm expecting continuation. But what we'll do is we'll drop down the time zones. You're at a very interesting point here. Not just is this significant, you can see it was support down here. It's got a long history in the Cardano chart now. And you can also see, if you look at these wicks, just what effect it had last time you were here and how it has indeed been acting as resistance. And you're getting a similar thing today. What comes now will be very telling into the structure that takes us to the upside. So I'm expecting a bit of a rest for Bitcoin. And by rest, I mean maybe a little bit of sideways action. It could outperform, and you know, but I'm expecting the overall direction to be upwards. And of course, if Bitcoin does decide to take a bit of a lull, Cardano may take a bit of a rest before setting up for that continuation. Remember, guys, it is still 54% up, which is impressive. Let's now dive into. There's not really much news to cover today, and I thought we'd do this different kind of video whilst it was kind of a low news day. I mean, there is a lot of things happening, but we covered the majority of them in yesterday's video. We spoke about the fact that we've seen institutional demand kind of really ramp up, and we can see this on chain. We've already covered this, so I don't think there's much point in me covering it again. You can just go and watch yesterday's video. If you guys enjoy on time, up to date Cardano information daily, make sure to subscribe to this channel, guys. And if you also, to people listening, if you could give me a like and a comment, it really helps me out with the algorithm and helps get these videos to more people. So let's talk about what we're going to spend the bulk of this video going over, and that is really stablecoins. Now, stablecoins are just one part of the Cardano ecosystem, but it's how some of these stablecoins are coming or planning on coming into existence that really has me excited. And we'll use Liquid as a good example. You've got Cardano, you've got ADA DAO, you've got a few others on here, Dejed, of course, that are stablecoins coming for the ecosystem. Liquid is a very interesting one because they claim to be the, or they don't claim to be anything. That you can essentially borrow LQUSD, which is just the US dollar, against your ADA at 0% interest. And this was a sneak peek put by Dwayne Cameron, who I think is one of the co-founders of LiquidX, and of course Liquid, as in the borrowing and lending protocol. This was a kind of sneak peek of what the interface will look like, and I'm going to explain it to you and really explain why stablecoins are so bullish for the Cardano ecosystem. You've got others out there. Cardano is one that I'm a big fan of. They've got a number of other things associated with stablecoins coming, like a kind of forex for stablecoins, like a DEX for stablecoins, which is super interesting. You've got a few others out there that are a little bit less known. But not only will you see the entire ecosystem go up significantly in terms of TVL, you're also going to see, I think, Cardano do very well off the back end of stablecoins, and we're going to explain why now. So I'll move my face from the screen. So stablecoin protocols and Liquid, and I think ADA DAO is another one. I'm not sure if Cardano will be 0% interest. Essentially what they're planning on allowing users to do, and we'll use the Cardano chart as an example, is they're going to allow individuals with ADA, you can see over here, deposit ADA, so you'll deposit your Cardano, to borrow US dollars essentially against it. So I'm not 100% sure, and I'll have to check it, what the collateralized ratio will be, so how much you'll be able to borrow against your initial deposit, but I will figure that out and get back to you. And what I'll do is a quick drawing using the Cardano chart of just how this works and why I think this is so bullish for not only Cardano but its ecosystem. So what we'll do is we'll draw a line down the middle, and over here you have someone whose name begins with P, so it could be Peter, who essentially has 100 ADA, and we're going to use a 90% collateralized rate. Typically they don't do 90%, but for the purposes of this video and the example that I'll give, we'll give 90%. So Peter has 100 ADA, and he wants to use LiquidX, which is this stablecoin protocol that is planning on deploying on top of the Cardano network, and of course being a stablecoin issuer for Cardano by having a collateral-based stablecoin that of course is pegged to the US dollar. So what Peter can do with his 100 ADA, right now he can stake it, he can do a few things. Let's say Peter needs some money, or he wants to decide to farm these stability farms. He can take that 100 ADA and he can deposit it into the LiquidX protocol. Now, if we're using a 90% collateralized rate, he can borrow up to 90% of the USD value of his 100 ADA. So let's say his 100 ADA is worth $1 each. Peter can then, after he's deposited his ADA, he can borrow Liquid USD, which is just a USD stablecoin that you'll be able to trade within the network. So he can now take a 90% loan, and he ends up with not Cardano, sorry. He ends up with 90 LQ tokens, which is 90% of the value. He can then take that and go and spend that anywhere in the ecosystem, and he still has his 100 ADA. And how he redeems that 100 ADA is by paying back the 0% interest loan that he was given, and then he will receive his 100 ADA back. He can choose to do that, but what he can also do is essentially leverage himself by taking that 90 LQ tokens and going somewhere else and buying, let's say, 90 Cardano again. Then he can come over after he's bought that and he's ended up with his 90 in exchange for his 90 LQ tokens. He can then go ahead and put it back within the protocol, and also then again take out a 90% loan against it. So his 90 now goes over here. He can then come back around and take out an 81% LQ loan against it. That's a 4, not a Q. And so on and so forth. And there may be farming opportunities out of this. But if he wants, he can just borrow it, which means he doesn't have to sell his Cardano. He can maintain it and take a loan against it, which opens him up for farming opportunities. Now, one of the amazing things about this, and I'll have to double check, is that potentially this, you'll be able to do this and deposit whilst your Cardano is staked. So there may be the options to actually provide and earn staking rewards whilst you're doing this. So you can see how this adds up if you just want to farm the stake. The farming opportunities are limitless, but what this does do is typically what people would have to do if they wanted liquidity and they wanted money was sell their Cardano on an exchange. They now don't have to do that. They can take a loan out against it. And I believe in some jurisdictions that doesn't count as actually cashing out of your investment, which is interesting. But there is a lot of sort of framework that's being made against that. But you can see how you could potentially farm this. Some of these protocols, I know on Aave and Compound, I used to do it. You could deposit, you could borrow, and then you could essentially continue to do so and actually farm the comp token. So we'll see what some of the farming opportunities are. But it's not just these guys that are doing this. And the good thing about this is it means that you don't actually have to sell your Cardano, yet you can pump 90% or 80% of its value back into the ecosystem. You don't just have to buy ADA with this, although you would if you were going to use your stablecoin protocols. For your borrowing and lending, you could employ a different strategy. But it is super, super... it's a great way to kind of take our ecosystem to the next level, if that kind of makes sense. Now, of course... if he puts 100 ADA in, it's worth $1, and it goes down to 89 cents. He gets liquidated, and essentially this gets sold on liquid, but he gets to keep his $90 that he sold it for. But essentially, he's lost his Cardano. So there is, of course, collateralized, and you can get liquidated doing this, just like you can trading leverage. However, it's a little bit less risky depending on your strategy, but this is just one way that you're going to end up with stable coins in the Cardano ecosystem that are actually backed by Cardano. That is going to get pumped into various different applications. It's going to get pumped into Cardano, and I ultimately think that was very healthy and positive for the price as a whole. That was a kind of rough drawing, by the way, guys, but this is the kind of basic concept of what Liquid are doing, what some of your other stablecoin protocols will be doing. This is interest-free, so you're taking out an interest-free loan off your crypto, and this is going to become, crypto is still yet to be really derivatized, but this is the kind of world that we're moving towards, and this is going to allow a lot more liquidity to go into some of the protocols within the Cardano ecosystem. The farming opportunities are going to be astronomical, and on top of that, some people may decide to take their borrowed stablecoin and actually put it into more ADA and try and farm whatever protocol they're involved in. So that is really all I have for you. It's just a short and sweet video stressing again, when you look at total values locked, we've used TERRA as a beautiful example. You look at the TERRA ecosystem, you can't hate on what TERRA have done with TERRA UST, because how at one point you essentially minted TERRA USD was you had to burn TERRA. $1 worth of TERRA got you $1 worth of UST. So it actually never got sold, yet they were creating a stable coin out of it. Similar thing happening with the Cardano ecosystem, and that is a $16.3 billion, nearly half of our entire market cap asset. There's that much volume in there. Similar thing coming for ADA. A lot of TERRA stablecoin has actually gone into their ecosystem, which is why they have a $29 billion ecosystem. This is all coming for ADA, guys, and it's the reason that I am super bullish and excited. Of course, when these protocols come out, I will be doing a much longer video on how to farm them, the do's and don'ts, because there are risks definitely associated with doing this. One of the big ones is that you can get liquidated and lose all of your initial Cardano that you put in, but you still get to keep the loan, essentially, if that makes sense. So if you have a 90% collateralized loan, put $100 in, you borrow 90. The second you lose that 10% collateral, you get your initial deposit liquidated, and you get to keep the borrowed amount, of course, 10% less than what you'd have previously had. So that is all I really have for you in this video, guys. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. We covered most of the news in yesterday's video. If you've enjoyed this content, like is always appreciated. So is a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.